Today I am so excited because I have with me the Sony 20-70mm f4 lens. This is a focal length that I've been dreaming of, and so I'm super excited to test it out. So in this video, I'm going to tell you more about this lens and also show you lots of sample photo and video footage that I shot with it. And this whole video is going to be shot with this lens. Now, before I get started, I do want to disclose that Sony sent me this lens to try it out, but I have it as a loaner. I'm not even able to keep it. And they also did not pay me to say anything. This video is not sponsored by any brands. Instead, it's actually sponsored by the community channel members and the patrons and those of you who have used my affiliate links below to buy any products. So if that's you, then thank you for sponsoring this video. If you're new here, my name is Suzi and I do camera reviews and tutorials mostly focused on compact camera gear, such as action cameras or smartphones, but I do also talk about mirrorless cameras because I've been a professional photographer for the past 10 years and I shoot Sony. In fact, we're shooting this video today on the Sony a7 IV, which is my main camera that I use for professional photos and videos. Now, the first thing to know about the Sony 20-70mm f4 lens is that it's not a replacement for anything. It's an addition to Sony's already spectacular lens lineup. In fact, Sony's massive lens library is one of the main reasons why I switched over from Canon to Sony. Now, some of you might be a little bit bummed out that this is an f4 lens and not an f2.8 lens or an f1.8 lens, but there are a couple of really good reasons for that. And the first is cost. So this lens costs $1,100 US, which in my opinion is pretty affordable considering the range that it's offering. And the thing is, if this was an f2.8 lens or an f1.8 lens, then the cost would be significantly more, but also the size of this lens would be a lot bigger and heavier because this lens is pretty compact and lightweight considering what it is. Now, when I first heard about this lens, it made me think of another lens out there, the Tamron 20-40mm f2.8 lens. Now, it is an f2.8, not an f4, but if you look at the focal length of that Tamron, it's more of a wide-angle lens. It's kind of similar to a 16-35 because it doesn't even include 50mm, which for me is a bit of a deal breaker because I love the 50mm focal length. It's actually my favorite focal length whenever I'm shooting with a prime. Now, personally, I used to only shoot with f2.8 lenses, especially back when I was a concert photographer shooting in low light 99% of the time. But since then, since I've made that switch from DSLRs to mirrorless cameras anyway, I've really switched up what I shoot. And so I'm not really doing concerts anymore. I mostly shoot corporate events, I shoot real estate, I shoot travel, so I don't really need that fast aperture anymore. In fact, I've actually been preferring f4 lenses because they're cheaper, they're more lightweight, and these camera bodies that we shoot with these days are able to shoot at high megapixels in really high ISOs, and you can still retain really great image quality. So ever since I switched over to Sony, my main all-around lens of choice has actually been the Zeiss 24-70 f4 lens, which, believe it or not, is actually coming up on being almost 10 years old. But last year I actually sold that lens and I replaced it with the 24-105 f4 lens. And so this has been my go-to all-around lens and I've really loved it. But now I'm starting to rethink this lens because there's the 20-70 f4 out. And believe it or not, those 4 extra millimeters on the wide end really make a big difference. So besides the 24-105 f4, the other lens that I shoot a lot with is the 20mm f1.8 lens. And I got the 20mm because, again, 24 was just not wide enough for me after a while. And I shoot a lot of real estate, I do a lot of events where I have to get really big group photos. And so 20mm, you know, I wasn't really sure if this was going to be enough at first, but surprisingly, this has become my go-to wide-angle lens. I actually have an ultra-wide as well. I have the 14-24 f4, but to be honest, I don't really bring that lens anymore because it's a little too wide and that front lens element can't be protected with a filter. And so I've really been loving this 20mm focal length because it's just wide enough to capture whatever I need to get on the wide side while still keeping my shots free of distortion. Another reason why 20mm is such a great focal length is for vlogging. Well, this is pretty cool and unexpected, but there's like I don't know what this is called, an arboretum? Like a greenhouse, I guess, with a bunch of flowers and plants inside of it. It's actually so warm I had to take my jacket off. But yeah, it's free. Nice going, Tacoma. Whenever I'm holding the camera out at an arm's length away, 24mm just seems a little bit too cropped in versus 20mm, which again is just wide enough to include myself and a little bit of the background without distorting things too much. And the lightweight nature of this lens also is very much appreciated whenever I'm hand holding this whole camera combination, because the Sony a7 IV plus the 20-70mm, you know, it is pretty heavy, but it is something that I can hold for a brief period of time whenever I'm going out to vlog. Another reason why you want to shoot with a slightly wider focal length whenever you're vlogging or doing handheld video is built-in stabilization. So the Sony a7 IV in particular has pretty good active stabilization, but it comes at the cost of cropping into your image just slightly. So in that sense, you want to be able to use the widest focal length that you possibly can to retain some of that wide image. Plus, I can actually go beyond the 70mm focal length if I'm using APS-C mode or clear image zoom. Clear image zoom. So in conclusion, this really is a dream lens for me. It covers a focal range that I use very frequently, it's small and lightweight, and it's relatively affordable, at least in comparison to a lot of the G Master lenses out there. But this is just my first impressions of this lens. I will be taking it with me to the Sundance Film Festival, where I'll be doing professional photography with it. So stay tuned for some vlogs in the field using that lens. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments below, if this is a dream lens for you as well, or if there's another lens that you're holding out for instead. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.